What is going on, Lucid fans? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So with Q2 earnings now behind us, I'm going to give you some updated data points, what is next for Lucid, and also some abnormalities that I did see during the actual conference call yesterday. So I'm going to go through all of that. But before I get into any of that though, making sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I greatly appreciate that. With that, let's get right to it. Live ticker is going at the very bottom, so we're currently down 10%, 25.3 million for volume, 21.4 is the average, so that is a 6-month average. And as you can see, block volume 2.4 million shares being purchased by institutions just on the secondary market. So I know technically it does suck, we're down 10%, but in the grand scheme of things, based on what came from the Q2 earnings, it's not too bad. We've gone down a lot more than this, just based on, for instance, in Q1, Tesla cited supply chain issues, we went down roughly about 13 to 15%. So given the actual news, it's not too bad. And in case you do not know what came from the earnings, I'm just going to give you a quick Cole's notes. 679 vehicles were actually delivered. They did cut guidance from 12 to 14 to now 6 to 7,000 vehicles for overall productions. Reservations went up, so 37,000 from the previous 30. Unfortunately, revenue was significantly lower than expected. Earnings per share was a little bit better. They did kind of reiterate about the gravity, so that is very good. So there was obviously some finite positive things that did come from the earnings call, but for the most part, it was left to interpretation. Keep in mind though, I'm not a financial advisor either, so do your own due diligence. And so with that, I just want to quickly go over some abnormalities that happened after hours yesterday and what's happening today. So, you know, I like to bring up what is happening on the dark pool. Obviously, the dark pool is an exchange designated for institutions behind the scenes. So right here though, there is some pretty big orders getting in. So 2.25 million, 2.74 million as far as premiums, 4 million, 2.49 million, 1.26. So a lot of people are taking advantage of these dips. So this is why, despite everything, like I said, we're actually doing fairly well. But there was some things that happened after hours yesterday that I found very interesting. And as you can tell though, I'm still scrolling, so a lot of institutions purchasing, but it is this. So 2.47 million that did happen after hours. So at 1600 hours, give or take. But the interesting thing with this specific one, you can see we were roughly at the low 18. So this is where we were trading at the time. Unfortunately, a lot of the tentative numbers for Lucid came out already. The stock started to go down, but look at this, $20.56. Look at the trades around it. So it was roughly about $2 plus over the ask. So that's a little bit more of an interesting scenario. And I did actually cross-check this with the short information, and it doesn't seem to have jived. So it's not someone closing out their short position. So it's very interesting to see that clearly someone behind the scenes, maybe there was some optimistic aspect of the earnings that possibly I missed. But generally speaking, that is a very bullish sign, seeing that criteria of 2.47 million. Unless someone just typed it in incorrectly, maybe they meant 1856 but came out as 20. I'm not really sure. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. But as far as an update on short interest, just want to go over here. Despite everything, it's not too bad. Like I said, I keep saying this because in reality, it's not. So it is actually up 0.33%, 399,000 shares being additionally shorted. Cost to borrow is going up. So cost to borrow max is 22%. Average is 18.19. Short score is still relatively high, so 86.92. So the likelihood of a squeeze occurring is still relatively high, given if there is some positive catalyst that does come out. So let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. As far as 13Fs, nothing really particularly special about today. A lot of the big players are next week, but still a lot of big institutions have been increasing their position. So 1,200%, 129%, 73%. You guys get the criteria. But when it comes to it though, a lot of people want to know what is next for Lucid. Where are we going? Because I think the bear sentiment, what a lot of people are now talking about, saying that it's going to the low teens. But looking on the actual technicals, I'm going to give you a good breakdown. So I do have the 50, 100, 200-day moving averages, Bollinger Bands, RSI, stochastic, and momentum. So number of buyers have gone down a little bit, as you can tell, based on the momentum, but that is usually represented for the retail investors. So number of buyers. So again, I think a lot of retail investors did get scared off because of the Q2 earnings, which rightfully so, right? It wasn't necessarily that positive. And stochastic is at 39, so it is relatively low, and there still is that deviation. So black line above the red showing a nice bullish trend is wanting to continue at least. RSI is at 47 as well. And on the actual chart, we are flirting with that 50-day moving average. We've always really struggled with that. And no matter what, if you scrape away absolutely everything, you can just look at that 50-day moving average and where we are in relation to the stock price. And that is a good telltale sign if we are bullish, bearish, whatever it is. So the fact that we're below it is a little bit more of a bearish sentiment, obviously given the circumstances, but we are wanting to get over that. So that's obviously what's happening behind the scenes. As far as some micro level aspects to this, I just want to go over the resistance points. So first, second, and third resistance points, all relatively high. On the contrary, first, second, and third support points, relatively low. We did break past actually all of them. So tomorrow will be a little bit more of a better telltale sign once these all do adjust. Just want to quickly pop over to Interactive Brokers. I do have a link to them in the description below, and also I'll put it in the comments if you do like a lot of this information, such as Analyst Ratings or even just Elliott Wave Technicals. I like to use this for this information, but there was some that did come in. So CFRA did reiterate their hold rating, did give us an $18 price target as well. So that was previously $20. So clearly their expectation was relatively low on us from the get-go. There was Citi. They gave us a $28 price target, and you can see it was previously $36. So clearly a lot of institutions weren't necessarily in our favor. And keep in mind, there was only roughly about 3 analysts that did ask questions during the Q2 earnings, one of which was Citi. The other one is Bank of America. Typically, Bank of America is a very big fan of us. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays into all of this. And keep in mind, it's been a while since we've actually heard from good old Morgan Stanley, aka Adam Jonas. And so last one was on May the 6th, and previously was March the 3rd. Keeps reiterating that underweight $12 price target. So I'm sure he's just been on his edge of the seat, just waiting to reiterate that again. So let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments below. But with all of that, let me know your thoughts on Lucid in the comments below, and your takeaway from the Q2 earnings. Were you really discouraged? Are you just a little bit more hyped up to buy more shares? I'm very curious to see what a lot of consensus is on this, because I think personally the Q2 earnings isn't necessarily the best. My own 2 cents, if anyone from Lucid is actually listening to any of these videos, just spend the money. You clearly spent, I think it was almost $3 million on personnel, just hiring. I personally feel that you should just spend a little bit more, hire one person to be more so MC, if you want to call it that, to run the Q2 earnings. Because as much as I really like the management team, and Sherry does a phenomenal job, Peter, you definitely do a good job, a little bit more improvement, but I think you need to hype up the earnings calls a little bit more. Because again, it's one of those things, right? You can still technically give bad news, but the way you say it, if you say it hesitantly, then it comes off twice as bad. So that's just my own 2 cents. Like I said, I'm not a financial advisor. I am just a very big fan of Lucid, and clearly just really like it at the end of the day. So I want the best for it, and I think technically the way the earnings calls have been going over the last 3, so Q4, Q1, and now Q2, it's just been very below par. My own 2 cents. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I greatly appreciate that. And if you do like my channel and support the growth, take a look at my memberships, link in the description below, or just hit the join button at the bottom of the screen. With that though, I appreciate you guys watching, and let's all make a lot of money on Lucid.